It's just funny to me that bot laners were whining so much about the AD carries when they get they can't play AD carries when jungle is literally getting reworked every single year.
This is Azento with Esports Heaven, and I have here with me Sven from Cloud9. And you had just played Gragas both games this weekend, and this pick kind of seemed like it came out of nowhere. And some people were talking about Gragas coming back into the meta, but no one's really explained why. So, like, why did you guys play him both times this weekend?
So Gragas is a pretty safe pick where you can kind of play it into like all matchups, and it recently got buffed in the patch 8.13 where the W just has a 5-second cooldown, so it's super strong to clear, and it's also a flex pick where it's viable on top and support right now. So early picking it, you can kind of like just see how the draft is going. Like the enemy has to think like, oh, I could go top or bot as well, so it makes it hard to draft against it where like it can go in 3 different roles. So you just have a lot of like flexibility, like picking Gragas early, just putting it wherever it can get like the best matchup.
Okay. So speaking to the game against FlyQuest, your guys' draft was really AP heavy, and a lot of the fans were like criticizing that, just like, oh, this is so much magic damage. Like, what are they gonna do towards the later parts of the game? Do you think that's actually valid criticism in the sense that a team can be too heavily focused on one source of damage, or is that not necessarily a problem within like this current meta?
I mean, it definitely depends on what the enemy team comp is, because if they have like a Mundo or something, then of course we're just gonna lose. He stacks MR and he gets MR from his like kit. But if they only have like bruisers, that game, if like Galio could go full MR, but usually Galios now they have to build AP, and Javan builds 2 AD items before you even can build tank. So as long as the game doesn't go to like 50 minutes where Javan can start itemizing for it, then damage spread is not like that huge. And even at that point, all our AP carries are gonna get like void staffs, so it doesn't really matter too much. I think it just depends. If they have like a full tank like Maokai or Mundo, then it's pretty rough. But I think a lot of the people are just like, they just want to flame something on C9. So
Yeah.
whichever the casters are saying like it's doing poorly, then they're just gonna snowball onto that guy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, they can't think for themselves.
So you guys have been swapping out a lot of players recently. With Zazel and then Smoothie and Sneaky and Jensen, all that. So how is it for you personally playing with different players? Because certainly everyone has their own playstyle. Golden Glue's playstyle might be different from Jensen. So how is it just you sitting and watching your team change and roll out these different players?
I mean, it's definitely a little bit weird because you have to like start working on like things from the beginning again, like once you get in new members, because you didn't learn the same things as a team where like usually if you play together for a long time, you just have like certain things down on the game, like early game or like mid game. You just know like how to play the game together as a team, whereas we kind of had to learn that like every week kind of again, like things to focus on. But I mean, I'm fine with the roster swaps, like being like for motivation or something. But yeah, I think Zazel is super good. I think Golden Glue did pretty good too. So it's just hard to like say what is the best roster for us, because a lot of the players did pretty good. So
yeah, I mean, Zazel popped off on Pike, so that was certainly a treat to see. Well, so TSM, they're having trouble with their roster, at least, or previously they were with Mike Young and then Grig, and it always seems like TSM have this problem with junglers. And so now being on Cloud9, you can kind of look at it and see, maybe it wasn't you that it was necessarily the fault of. But just what's your general opinion on TSM swapping out junglers and just jungle culture for TSM specifically?
So I think jungling for TSM is obviously super hard because the whole fan base just really likes to like just point the fingers at one guy and say that it's his fault that the team is doing bad. Yeah. And usually it's easy to blame the jungler in like competitive or like even solo queue, people just always blame the jungler. So yeah, it's just the most easy guy. Like
that's my games, man.
Yeah, it's the most easy guy. So it's definitely rough, but yeah, I mean I think Grigney is doing pretty well, so I don't think it's really his fault if they're doing bad. Like I don't really know how the comps are or something, but to me at least he looks pretty solid. And I think maybe Björk is like taking a step back and like being the like dominant shot caller or something. That's what it sounds like, at least. Like he's more relaxed, so maybe they're like trusting more Miffy or something shot calling. Maybe Björk has to talk more again or something. I don't know. I can't really say too much about it. I just know like Grigney looks pretty good.
Yeah. So with junglers, it seems like every patch or every season the jungle gets changed dramatically, right? And now one of the hotter topics is Riot's balancing and Riot's patching and how they approach patch philosophy. So as a jungler, do you kind of find it frustrating that the game gets constantly changed for your role specifically? And do you think that's why it's so hard to be a jungler in League of Legends?
I mean, I think one of the reasons why there can be so many new like jungle prodigies or whatever is like the reason why like they're always changing the jungle. So like I was jungling back in season 2 and season 1, and the things I learned from back then doesn't matter now because the jungle is so different. And I kind of gave up on like caring too much about like the jungle getting changed all the time because it's just been happening every year for like 7 years now. Yeah. So I complained a lot about it like in the past, but now I'm just like it's gonna keep happening. So even if I complain about it, nothing's gonna happen about that. So it's just funny to me that bot laners were whining so much about the AD carries when they can't play AD carries when jungle is literally getting reworked every single year. So like other roles also, I like that they have to play more stuff too.
Well, because okay, speaking back to your days of old school jungling and your like famous Lee Sin, you were like this super aggressive jungler back in the day, and now it seems that you have this tempered aggression. So would you want it to go back to those days of just like you could do carry style junglers and you know you carry like Copenhagen Wolves to victory? Or
I mean, I think it's like different now because the teams just have learned to play the game at a much higher level. So like invading and stuff is a lot more risky now. Whereas back in the day, you didn't have trinkets. Like everybody's just a free board now, so it's like kind of hard. And usually, people just know what's the most optimal pathing and stuff. So it's kind of hard to like punish teams. And I mean, I would like the game to be more aggressive, but right now I really like the game with the Scuttle Crabs too. It like makes you able to fight early game too. So I like the game how it is now.
Okay, so you guys have to go 8-4, I believe the broadcast was saying, to make it into playoffs now. How do you look at that challenge and say like, oh, it's completely doable, or how do you keep your morale up in the face of that like adversity?
I mean, already going into this week, it was pretty rough. Like I think everybody kind of took the hit like a bit hard that like playoffs is pretty hard for us. But on the same note, I guess like we might as well just keep trying because we can still make it, obviously. So I think everybody's just gonna keep trying and like see what happens. Hopefully we make it.
Okay, well that's all I really have for you. This has been Zento from Esports Heaven and Svenskeren from Cloud9. Thank you.
Yep.